Hello and welcome back to ProtoBalls Talks, where I'm finally been allowed back into my own apartment after last week's flub. Or last time's flub.
I still haven't forgiven him.
Forgiven me enough to call me back into my own apartment even though you don't live here. Anyway, today we'll be talking about Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, Part 1, Blue-Eyed Casval. Has a long title, but
It's pretty good.
oh yeah, it's pretty good. Now, for those of you unaware, Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, at least the movie and later television versions, act as a prequel to the original Mobile Suit Gundam and were adapted from the manga series Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, which was itself an adaptation of the original television series for the most part. And these movies are an adaptation of a portion of the manga that act as a prequel to the rest of the series.
So as you can see, we've done things terribly out of order. But that's not our fault.
Yeah, no, the Origin movies didn't come out until well after the original Mobile Suit Gundam. In fact, I would almost argue that the backstory given in the Origin manga was probably written specifically to give the original series more backstory and flesh it out.
Not like it needed it anymore, to be honest.
Well, I feel that, at least in the case of these movies, these help to further cement who the characters are in the original series that don't get enough development, like Revel. But
I get that. I'm just saying, it's not like the original series really needed any more fleshing out when a lot of the character fleshing out was done in the series.
Right.
Series proper. But I mean, I get it, because this movie does give us a couple nice character moments. For a certain character.
But this movie specifically is the first of 6 movies, and
each one's about an hour long, so it's not like
rough. I think the first 4 are about an hour long. I think the last 2 are maybe an hour and a half. I'd have to look it up, but they're
pretty easy to breeze through.
And I honestly would definitely recommend checking out these movies if you've also watched the original series or the movies.
Yeah,
because they are a fantastic complement. And so let's talk about how it begins.
Yeah, sure.
The Battle of Loom. I forget how it's pronounced. The Battle of Loom, the first major conflict of the 1-year war to involve mobile suits. And then it flashes back to 0068, 11 years earlier. Yeah, we get just a taste of mobile suit action before we get flung so far back.
Yeah, that battle is sort of like the first.
It's
like the first real battle where Char gets his sort of moniker.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, as some of the later movies will show, he does kind of rise through the ranks.
Yeah.
For having his skills and such, but those are the later movies. We're talking about the first one.
So yeah, we're in a nice little mansion, and we've got a character who has only been mentioned in passing in the original series and even in Zeta sometimes.
Zeon Zoom Daikun, the father of Artasia and Casval Daikun.
Yeah, and he's got, the best way to describe it is he's madly writing like Lovecraft is in the middle of the night. He's sweating all over, furiously typing away, trying to get his master stroke finished, and his wife is just like, don't you want to rest? And he's like, there's no time for rest. Rest is for pussies.
For the record, what Zeon is writing is actually basically a manifesto advocating for Munzo's independence from the Federation. Munzo, if you don't know, is the Side 3, which eventually came to be known as the Principality of Zeon. But that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, right now it's just known as Munzo or Side 3. So.
And this speech that Zeon is writing is actually super important because it will be referenced later on. And
yeah, it's kind of treated as this
super important thing, and we never get to hear it for a very good reason, which we'll get into real soon.
But
this is also where we're introduced to baby Artesia and little Casval. It's like, oh, they're so adorable.
They're kids. Yeah. Yeah.
For those of you who
Casval's kind of a dick in this.
a little bit, but he's the kind of character who gets it. He knows what's going on.
Yeah.
He understands the weight of it. He understands just about the weight of everything. So despite being so young, he's mature for his age.
Yeah.
And Artesia is
just a baby.
she does not know what is going on in the world.
3 or 4 at this point?
I don't know. I didn't pay attention to their ages.
Well, she's young. She's young.
She's very young.
Very young and very naive, so that sort of helps you get a grasp of where they are,
We then
Daikun comes. I'm just gonna refer to him as Daikun because it's easier.
Fair enough.
Zeon Daikun. He comes into the room where
he's mid. We cut to mid speech at the assembly where he's giving his speech, and he has a heart attack. He has a heart attack.
And it's here that we're shown a character that we're used to, a character who was considered the big bad of the original series.
Daegun Zabi.
Who is like, what's going on?
The fact that they show Daegun's reaction as being that of surprise really says a lot, because up until this point, the franchise had kind of treated Zeon Daikun's death as though it was something that had been planned and executed by the Zabi family for them to take power.
And let's be honest, yeah, it kind of was.
I mean, kind of, but the fact that they're showing Daegun having a surprise reaction calls into question whether or not he actually had any involved in Daegun's death or Zabi's death or Zeon's death. Sorry, and just kind of calls into question if Zeon Daikun's death was just an unfortunate accident that had just a lot of really awful things happen as a result of it.
Yeah, so Zeon Daikun passes away. They're unable to revive him, and they have him laid down on the table, and they're bringing in his wife and the kids.
Yeah.
And Artesia has no idea what's going on.
She is that young. Oh, man.
And until she gets close enough to realize, he's dead.
Oh.
And it's pretty heartbreaking.
But then this actually ends up causing pretty hostile protests in Munzo, because they think the Federation is responsible for Zeon's death. They are so adamant about obtaining liberation from the Federation.
And let's be clear, that manifesto that Zeon Daikun was writing was actually he mentioned it in passing. It was to be a declaration of war.
Yes, but I will say that the fact that we never actually hear any of his speech...
it's just mentioned in passing.
It's mentioned in passing, but the fact that we don't hear any of his speech makes me wonder just how much of his speech he got through before having his heart attack, which then makes me wonder if anybody else later on in the series, when they talk about Zeon's ideal and their ideas of what he believed in, makes me wonder if anybody actually knew what Zeon's ideal was and what he was actually trying to advocate.
And everybody treats it like a big deal because, to be honest, for most accounts, the way I see it, Zeon Daikun was basically their provincial governor, president.
He was practically a highly respected politician.
Yeah,
practically.
He was this planet.
He was this figure who was advocating for independence.
I'm trying to think of how to word this. He was these people's Cicero.
I have no idea what that means, but go with it.
You don't know who... Cicero was one of the most highly respected politicians of the Roman Senate.
Okay.
Until he got caught in the crossfires of the Civil War and was murdered for it.
But yeah, speaking of murdered...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
we'll get to that soon enough. But
yeah, that's
because of all the chaos. At one point, the surviving Daikuns are just trying to leave, and a bunch of protesters who realize who's in the van basically start crowding around the vehicle, and just wanting to get to see the children of Zeon Daikun, and it's
and the reason they're trying to leave is so Daegun Zabi gathers them into a room, and he's like, well, if there's anything you need from me, just let me know. I guess I'm in charge now.
And Jimba Rawl, another one of Zeon's associates.
That last name might sound familiar.
It'll be revealed soon enough. Jimba Rawl, he is having none of this. He is adamant in his belief that the Zabis killed Zeon because they were political rivals with the Rawl family.
Yeah, Jimba Rawl is in like a couple words is a paranoid crackpot. He is utterly fucking insane, but not for the reasons you think he would be. He's just completely paranoid, and he is so entrenched in hatred for the Zabis that he just he has no trust in them.
Yeah, he outright believes that the Zabi family were the ones responsible for Zeon's death.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Not necessarily. I mean, we don't know if the Zabis actually had any involvement. But he is adamant in his belief of it, despite how little evidence there was.
So he's like, "Hey, why don't you gather up with me? I'll take you to my manor.
I'll keep you safe.
I'll keep you safe from those zombies."
And so they're heading to the Rawl estate.
Yeah, and so he mentions something along the lines to Casval to never trust the zombies, basically. And so they try to leave, and
they just get crowded by all these protesters who, again, they're not protesting the Daikun family. Yeah. They highly respect the Zabi family.
They just want to see them.
The Daikun family.
Yeah, they just want to see them.
Yeah, they're like a bunch of radicalized fans, like kind of like with the Beatles.
Yeah, something like that.
Just with politics, it's weird. And so, of course, Jimba's son, Ramba...
I mean, I'm not surprised we kind of have that nowadays.
Anyway, Jimba's son, Ramba, who you probably recognize the name, he has to get...
an important character. Maybe shows up in the original series once or twice.
He actually gets a little bit, I don't want to say violent, but... he definitely shows hostility towards the protesters.
He basically threatens to shoot them.
He does, but to be fair, they are kind of crowding the vehicle. He's just trying to get them to disperse, and it's not working.
So then we hear another couple of gunshots.
And it's Cascilia Zabi.
You might have heard of her. Kind of important. Maybe shows up in the original series once or twice. I'm going to say that for every character in this.
Go for it.
It's going to be the running gag of this episode.
Anyway, she shows up to help disperse the crowd and to get the Daikuns on their way.
And she doesn't really do anything hostile, but yeah. Rambo Roll's just like, thanks, I'll be on my way. Yeah. He doesn't trust her one bit.
And so during all this, the Zabi family have basically come to power as a result of all this. And one of Cassilia's brothers, Sasro, who
you might have heard of him. Never showed up in the original series. Once or twice.
Love how you did that. Anyway, he just tears into her for letting the Daikun flee from his grasp.
He lays a verbal smackdown.
He slaps her at one point.
And then to add insult to add insult to injury, he lays a verbal smackdown on her. And then to add real injury to insult to injury, he fucking bitch slaps her. He dope smacks her in the face. And then there's the other brother.
Giran?
Not Giran.
Giran is
there. Is in the room. He doesn't give a fuck.
But Dozel.
Dozel gives a fuck. Dozel, might have heard of him. Probably he's only like the best Zabi.
Nope. No, he's not the best zombie.
Yes, he is. Anybody who can pilot Big Zam's the best. Don't you tell me otherwise. Got you there, didn't I?
You have a point. Anyway.
But Dozel's like, what the fuck, man? Come on, she's our sister. And what's his name is like...
Sasro is just... No, he's just like, fuck you.
Fuck you, I'm in charge. I'm the big brother.
Now, at some point during all this, Artesia actually asks Ramba to go find her pet cat, Lucifer. And,
doesn't go as well as he thought.
But that's only shown in retrospect after he stumbles drunkenly into a bar covered in scratch marks.
Yeah, he tries to sneak it. So he tries to sneak into a bar because the zombies have spread rumors to all the city folk that the Rawls are holding the Daikun family hostage.
Or something to that effect.
Something to that effect.
They have spread a lot of animosity toward the Rawl family to the general public as part of their efforts to basically completely discredit the Rawl family and destroy them as political rivals.
But it's during this that they're in the funeral procession for Daikun.
Not yet. I don't think.
I'm pretty sure it's happening.
Okay. Maybe him going to the bar after.
It's around the same time. They're going through a funeral procession.
First off, the funeral itself, I just want to comment on the fact that Casval salutes his dead father in a piece of imagery that I just feel is completely, just completely evocative of John F. Kennedy Jr. Saluting his own late father.
I was about to mention that. Yeah, I think that's kind of what they were going for with that.
And we also get a brief, quiet meeting between Casval and Garma. And Casval just shoots Garma daggers.
Because Garma doesn't know any better, to be honest.
He's still a little kid.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what's all going on.
His dad didn't die.
To be fair, Garma isn't being disrespectful. He's just looking at another kid and smiling at him. Like, hey, you want to be friends? And Casval's just like...
What the fuck, dude? Come on. Come on, dude. My dad just died. Well, shit. You don't have to be a pussy about it.
And not a word is said between the two, but it's just the way it's depicted.
The way it's shot is really good.
Oh, it's fantastic. And then we get to the funeral procession, where in one of the vehicles...
it's Dozel and
Sasro.
They're talking.
And Sasro is just going on a rant about something.
About Cassilia and the Rawls and this and that and just
showing how much of an ass he is, so it's incredibly satisfying when he's engulfed in a ball of fire and the car explodes.
Yeah, the car explodes with Dozel inside. And everybody's like, whoa, what the hell's going on? And Giran has one of the funniest reactions. He's looking back like, oh, look at that. That happened. Like, he's got that faux surprise on his face because, he has to act.
And Dozel
kicks out the door.
He kicks the door out and is like, Sasro, my brother! He's dead! The Rawls killed him!
Ryu-san!
Not really. I didn't give a shit about Sasro. He was an asshole.
I'm saying that's what Dozel was like.
That was what Dozel was behaving like. Yeah.
Ryu-san!
Except that nobody actually cares about Sasro. And
that's why he's never referenced once in the original series.
Because he's dead. And what I absolutely love about this is that though it's never outright confirmed, it's very, very heavily implied that Cassilia was the one who planted the bomb.
Oh yeah, I think you could put two and two together and say Cassilia did. What I also love is that's how Dozel gets his scars.
Yeah, the scars that Dozel has in the original series are not from some battle. They're from surviving a car bomb, which, good on him!
I'll say that. I just want to say, getting a few scars from a battle, that's pretty cool. Getting car bombed, the seat right next to you exploding, kicking the door down, and still having the strength to fucking want to fight something. And that's how you get your scars? Shit, Dozel's a badass. No wonder why he had Big Zam.
And this is part of the reason why the Rawl family have such animosity towards him, because Dozel almost outright claims that it was the Rawl family who did it, even though there's no evidence, and we, the audience,
Dozel knows better than to make accusations, but he's so pissed, he's blind in the moment.
Yeah, and we, the audience, are of course completely aware of the idea that it was probably Cascilia who did it. It's probably her getting revenge for the bitch slap.
Yeah. And Ramba Rawl is, calm throughout the whole thing. He's just like, yeah, well, it happened, and they're gonna blame us for it. I'm not surprised.
And so, in the aftermath of this, I think this is when Artesia asks him to go find Lucifer the cat.
So then he disguises himself, because...
Barely. And goes to the Cafe Luna, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And we're actually introduced to 3 characters who actually show up in the original series. We, of course, have Haman Crowley.
Yep.
She's the most important of them because she's the most prominent. But we also get Tachi, who shows up fairly late in the Ramba Rawl arc, and as well as Clamp, who is one of Ramba's closest associates in the original series.
Right. Yeah.
And
I forgot they were in the original series, to be honest. With how many new characters we get, it's just kind of...
Yeah, this movie does introduce a lot of new characters to the whole proceedings. But the returning characters, and if you're aware that they are returning characters, it's very nice. We see Clamp working at a bar. Tachi is a soldier, but he's basically acting as the bouncer for this cafe.
Which is pretty funny.
Kinda, yeah.
So it's interesting. You basically have these 3 opposing forces going on right now. You have the Rawls and their forces. You've got the Zombies and their forces.
Their faction, yeah.
And then you've got the Federation,
who we haven't really even talked about at all because they've barely factored into this whole mess at this point yet.
But they're basically treated like the outsiders who need to be kicked out.
Right, even
despite what practically is a civil war at the moment.
All borderline, yeah. Which is kind of ironic. There's all this outward force to try and push the Federation out, but it's really the internal stuff that's causing a lot of the strife, and nobody realizes it.
Yeah, which is actually a really sort of poignant point about this.
So
if they just leave the Federation, well, if they could just get over their internal strife, a lot of this shit wouldn't be happening, and the Federation wouldn't be clamping down on shit as bad.
To be fair, some stuff that happens in the later movies does help to further stoke the flames of animosity towards the Federation. So this movie isn't itself the spark that lights the flame. This is just a bit of kindling to the whole thing. But of course, Ramba barely disguises and bluffs his way into the
bar,
into the cafe, and meets with Crowley, who basically has pretty much guessed that Ramba's there to ask for a favor because...
I mean, why the fuck not?
The 2 are lovers, and it's pretty obvious that they are close. But she does realize that he is there to ask for a favor.
I mean, have you watched us review Soldiers of Sorrow?
Oh, that is such a good movie. But
I mean, if it wasn't obvious then, I don't know what to tell you.
But so, of course, he basically asks her to find a way to get his dad and maybe some other people off the colony and down to Earth for their own safety. And she's like, yeah, let's see what I can do. All right, next, let's see what happens next. Bunch of stuff happens. I think at one point, Cascilia shows up at the at the Rawl estate and has a conversation with Casval, and it is Casval is a fucking brave boy, because Cascilia is an intimidating woman.
I'm a brave boy. Not brave enough for this! Yeah, he takes no fucking shit from her.
Even when she handcuffs him in a in a locked room when it's just the two of them. He shows no fear. Surprised, maybe, but no fear. He stands up to her.
Basically says, hey, I'll have you arrested, motherfucker.
It's like, well, I can have you arrested. And there's this tense standoff, and at the end of it, she just leaves. It's like, I feel she has gained some respect for him.
She tries to strike a deal.
She tries to strike a deal, then she tries intimidating. And when ultimately that doesn't work, she has to begrudgingly leave. And I think she has some respect for the kid at the end of it.
And meanwhile, Giran's just like...
Giran is so nonplussed about the whole thing.
He's like, I mean, that's not surprising. I mean, you're you. Giran's an asshole, and Giran's always an asshole. He's like dick mode overdrive in this movie.
And yet he still hasn't shown his dictatorial tendencies
No,
yet.
he hasn't.
He hasn't shown his Hitler side yet. Which, for those of you who haven't seen our podcast talking about the third original movie, that is not something derisive. That is an actual...
That is stated...
That is an actual comparison that is made within the series proper.
That's just sort of a stated fact.
That is one of my favorite moments in the original series. But stuff happens. I'm actually trying to remember what all happens.
So they agree to smuggle out.
Yes, they agree. Haman does help to pull some strings to try and get Jimba and the Daikuns out. But during all this, some lady, Roselica, I don't know who this character is.
Well, what happens is when Cassilia and them are talking, she sort of strikes a deal for safe passage. For the
Daikuns?
For the Daikuns to basically be able to survive and be at a safe place. While what's his name?
Jimba is just like, don't trust her. She's a liar. She's from a family of liars.
She's from a family of liars. Oh God, we're all gonna die.
He's so goddamn paranoid. So funny.
So they're taken to this mansion owned by Miss Rosalica or some fucking...
Roselica. I don't know who this character is. Maybe it's a character who gets introduced in a later piece of media that I haven't watched yet.
But we pretty much know fuck all except three things. One, she loved Zeon Daikun. Two, she's batshit insane. And three, apparently she can't get pregnant. By her own fucking admission.
Yeah. She hates Estrella, Daikun's wife.
Because she's like, oh, how come he had to fall in love with some whore like you?
It's like, oh, bitch.
Bitch, what the fuck? And then she has a heart attack. That's not a joke.
Yeah, no, she practically has a heart attack. While just
ranting,
while bitching out Estrella, and even during the point where this woman is having a heart attack, Estrella is intimidated.
She's like, "What the fuck is this? I'm not."
Even though this woman is having a heart attack right in front of her, she's still scared of the bitch. That should show how intimidating Roselica is. But, again, I don't know if she's from any later media that I just haven't seen, or if she's just created specifically for this backstory.
Fuck if I know.
I do. You know less about the series than
exactly.
I do.
I fucking know. She's probably only in it in this series.
People who are listening to this and do know if she's from some later thing, don't spoil it for me. I want to be surprised to see her again if she does. But basically, her whole deal is that she's basically exiling Estrella to a tower in the middle of a lake.
Which apparently Zeon Daikun used as a place of...
personal isolation when writing some of his earlier ideological works. So, there was some to that.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering the flashbacks Ramba has about trying to capture Lucifer.
Oh. Yeah.
Those are some very, very well done moments
just
of
like
levity.
Fucking cat. Just in passing, what's her name?
I don't know.
Casval's sister.
Artesia?
Yeah, Artesia. She's like, oh no, I forgot. Lucifer doesn't like new people.
So yeah, that's why Raul has all the scratch marks as his disguise.
Yeah.
Because they're not really a disguise.
But no, so Zeon's wife,
Estrella,
manages to convince what's her name?
Roselica, the bitch, the old bitch, to let her spend one last night with her kids. Now, by this point, all the arrangements have been made to get them out. Jimba, Artesia, and Casval out and down to Earth.
Yeah, and before all the and in the middle of all this, Ramba goes home and his house is a complete mess.
It's not a complete mess, but it is practically abandoned.
Yeah.
And it's at this point that Crowley, who's wearing a disguise, informs them that she's made arrangements for the transport to Earth.
So he finds Jimba, and I have the funniest comment to make about because Ramba opens the door and Jimba has a magnum in his hand. He has a revolver in his hands. He's like, "All right, I'm ready to fight."
It's like this is the moment where you're like, "Yep, no, this guy's insane.
This guy is nuts." But I noticed something about him. His getup was a green vest with. The best way I can describe it is he looked like an older, gray-haired, if he were wearing a green vest, Barry Burton from Resident Evil. And you know what? It looks like him.
Yep. I completely agree.
I mean, a bigger beard, yeah, but...
But, yeah, older, it makes sense.
Older Barry Burton. So, Jimbo Roll, I'm calling Barry Burton from now on. For sake of meme.
Okay.
For the memes.
So, of course, Ramba tells Barry about...
tells him, hey, we're sneaking you out. And he's like, oh my god, you're the best son ever! And Ramba's just like, I'm done with you, Dad. Just, please.
It's like, I'm not going with you. I'm going to stick around, see what hell happens. But you guys stay safe.
And you know what? He's not afraid to stay because he knows the zombies won't kill him.
Yeah, because it's actually established that even the zombies recognize that he has some influence with the rest of the soldiers, so they can't just get rid of him.
He's an incredibly popular soldier.
Right.
Or officer.
So getting rid of him would look bad on their part.
Yeah.
So they understand that they can't really touch him. They would really like to, but they understand that they can't, so...
I mean, it works out in their favor in the original series.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, truth be told.
So anyway...
What a way to go.
So anyway, the kids visit their mom in the tower, and Artesia mistakenly thinks that that's their new home, and mistakenly thinks that this tiny balcony is now their backyard. She is so young and innocent and so naive.
So she has a serious talk, and she's basically like, yeah, you guys are getting smuggled out. Don't worry about it. I'll join you guys eventually.
And it's like, no, you're going to come with us. Artesia's like, no, you're going to come with us. It's like, calm down. I will join you. After the moon has, like, its full rotations 100 times. And Artesia's like, what's the moon?
I can't believe it.
To be fair...
Did we not have any picture book? Zeon, did we not have any picture books? What the fuck?
And of course, Casval's there, and he's just like, he knows what's going on. He knows that they're never going to see her again. He knows that Estrella is lying to her, but he understands why she's lying to her.
He's kind of a brood. He kind of broods throughout this entire thing.
And I think that's fine. I mean, that kind of helps to establish his character later on. His brutishness. But
his broodiness.
he gets more developed despite the fact that this movie is called Blue-Eyed Casval, it doesn't really focus a whole lot on Casval.
He's just sort of along for the ride.
Not that he's unimportant and just there. He does have his good moments, like at the funeral and standing up to Cecilia. Like, those are some fantastic moments.
I can't think of really a good analog for him. No, he's basically Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He just happens to be there. Nothing he does really affects the plot in any way, shape, or form.
But he still feels like a central figure.
Yeah, he's still a central figure. And you know what? I will argue that to the death. Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark does jack shit in that movie.
Except shoot a dude.
Except shoot a dude. That's the only thing of consequence he ever does. But everything, he does not change the plot whatsoever. Actually, no. His presence is important to the plot because he's the one who finds the arc for that.
So yeah, that analogy kind of falls apart once you actually think about it.
But after that, yeah, never mind. If you didn't think too deep about it.
So of course, Casval understands what's the truth of the situation. Artesia doesn't. They have one final night with their mother, and then in the morning, a gun tank shows up to take the kids away. A freaking gun tank. Now this may seem like a surprise, since the gun tank apparently wasn't developed until the 1 Year War, but
it's a prototype.
It's an early prototype version, and it does, in design, feel like a natural progression from a tank into what eventually came to be mobile suits. So it makes sense. And it's fine. It's completely fine.
I mean, it looks similar, and it's fine enough.
Yeah.
So, what's your name?
Haman? Crowley?
Yes. Crowley. Miss Crowley.
Yes. She, disguising herself as a Federation soldier, claims that she's come to take the kids for Federation reasons, and that she has the authority, even though she actually doesn't, and the Federation have no clue what's going on, because this has basically been a hijacked...
Yep.
A hijacked gun tank.
So they take the kids, they start riding away, and nobody can contact the main place, because they've cut off the lines. Or they've scrambled it.
They've jammed the signals. And so now we've got a gun tank just going through the streets trying to get to the spaceport.
Yeah.
And the Federation have now started to mobilize to intercept this rogue unit of theirs.
And so Crowley's talking to the two pilots. Just some dudes.
Oh... These guys.
Those poor fucking bastards.
Like, they attempt to coerce her into either giving them more money because they realize how much more dangerous this is going to be now, or some other form of payment. And she just lays into one guy. And the other guy...
The other guy's incapacitated by a kick to the nuts. Which I have to say, that has to be some swift kick in the nuts to knock him out for several minutes.
She takes out one guy, the other guy pulls a gun on her. It's like, you know what is going to happen if you shoot in here. Now drive!
Now drive, bitch.
And this is after she's explained the situation of what's going to happen to the kids.
So they're intercepted by gun tanks. And he's like, oh god, we're going to die!
And her mom, she's like, okay, She's trying to pilot the thing to try and figure out how to get past it. And it's at this point that Casval and Artesia discover that the controls actually work on their end, and that the gun tank is locking onto the other units that are blocking their way.
So he fires upon them. Casval fires upon them. Not anybody else in that thing. And Artesia is freaking out.
Oh, yeah, this is a chaotic moment. Crowley is completely taken off guard by the fact that the gun tank has fired and realizes that it's a kid. Casval's the one pulling the trigger, marking this as his first time in a mobile suit, and him owning!
Yep. There's 3 of them, and he kills all...
4 of them! There are 4 of them!
There are 4 of them. This is like Ip Man fighting 10 black belts.
And he takes them all down without their gun tank taking really any damage to much.
Yeah.
Or at least not a whole lot. And it's only when Artesia pleads for him to stop that he finally snaps out of it and realizes what he's done.
He's killed 4 people.
At least
4 people. Maybe 6, 7,
8. I don't know how many people were in there.
Yeah.
Now, during all this, the Federation are still trying to mobilize to intercept the rogue unit. At one point, Dozel tries to stop a unit from attacking the gun tank because
this is fucking hilarious.
because he knows that the kids are in there.
He's like, the kids are in there. You guys need to stop. And he's like,
the Federation guy. He's like, but we have orders. This guy's telling us to.
Dozel's basically looming over them. And he's like, yeah, sir. Dozel's up. He's right over us, and he wants us to not kill him.
This is a fucking order. You attack that rogue unit.
I mean, he's telling us to...
Dozel just looms over them, and his stitches pop, and he just starts bleeding blood. So and then he gets a call from Giran, who tells him, yeah, no, just don't do him. Let this play out.
Oh, yeah, the kids don't matter. Kill them. And he's just... There's a brief pause, and he's just like,
So the Federation guys, they don't know what's going on. It's like, what?
Are you sure? Yes.
And this is where Giran really shows how much of an ass he is. And then there's also another detachment.
At this point, he knows they've outlived their usefulness.
And so at about this point, another Federation detachment is trying to intercept with the unit when they're blocked by Ramba Ral and his unit, who have a flat tire.
We don't have a spare. This is going to take a few hours. God damn it, guys! And it's not just in one place. It's all over the place where tanks are being stopped.
Whether it's fake construction and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there's a concerted effort to get these kids out. And the kids do manage to make it to the spaceport, but only after they sacrifice the gun tank by jumping off and running to safety and just having the gun tank get piloted into a firing squad, which destroys it.
Now I'm sure you're wondering, whatever happened to those 2 unnamed guys? Well, now you know.
Yeah, they didn't get out. They were too scared.
They were so scared they got stuck in the door.
It's funny, but yeah.
I mean, they didn't die. They went to a nice little farm off in space heaven.
So they died.
Space heaven isn't heaven.
And of course, after Haman and the kids get out of the gun tank and manage to evade anything else, they meet up with Ramba, who takes them all to the spaceport and puts them and the kids and Jimba into a nice big cargo transport.
And they're almost caught several times, but the fucking
Tachi does his level best to try and get this package through without any further inspections, because he knows what's inside there. And I think there's actually at one point where Cassilia shows up and basically tells Ramba that if she wanted to, she could totally shut this whole thing down and stop the transport and intercept the kids, but she doesn't.
Yeah, Cassilia basically says, I know what you're doing, and I'm going to let it happen. Because you know what? Fuck my family. I mean, she doesn't say that, but...
you can definitely kind of tell that she's more interested in seeing how this all plays out now.
She's more for a chaos theory.
She's earned enough respect from Casval to want to see how this plays out when he grows up.
And you know what? We know how it turns out.
Anyway.
So they escape.
The kids and Jimbo do manage to escape, and they get out of the transport as it's moving through space, and they...
And Jimbo's like, I'm having none of this. Like, get the fuck
get back in here. It's not safe. And Casval, it's like, no, it's safe. It's fine. They go to the window, and they see...
The moon!
They see space. They see Earth, where they're going to, and then they see the moon.
The moon!
Which is far closer to them than the Earth is. And Artesia is like, that's the moon?
Wow, what a dead piece of rock. Sort of anticlimactic, huh, Mom? It's just a piece of rock out in the middle of nowhere. What the fuck?
But Artesia's like, that thing's gotta go through its full rotation 100 times? And I gotta be a good girl during all that?
Mind you, a full rotation's about 4 or 5 months. So,
I thought it was just a month.
A full rotation?
Well, a full cycle of the phases.
Oh.
Because Artesia's like, when that grows big in the sky and then grows smaller, that's the full cycle. And 100 of those, 100 months, is when I'll be rejoining you. So, you're calculating how long 100 months is, aren't you? No, you're looking up how long the phases of the moon last, don't you?
Yeah. How many days on the moon cycle? 29.5 days, so yes, once a month. Okay.
Yeah, about a full month. Like, I think I could have just shown you this calendar out here.
I don't wanna, no.
That one's just got fishes. Never mind.
So, that being said...
Now you're looking up how long that is.
So, 1,200 years, or 1,200 months, which, that's about 12 years. Or 10 years.
That's 100 months.
Yeah. 12 times 100.
What? No. Why are you multiplying the number of months by 12? It's not. She's not saying a full year of 100.
Oh.
You want to divide, not multiply.
That's 8 months. She's saying, "Hey, I'll see you in 8 months."
No, she's saying she'll see them in 100 months.
And you see why I didn't graduate. Hold on. Which is 8 years. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds more reasonable.
Do you see why I didn't go to college for math? I'm not good at it. Maybe I should start practicing Baldy's basic math.
Maybe that would be an interesting thing for your channel.
But
I'd watch it. Granted, I watch everything on your channel, but...
I know. People should be watching.
And that's where the first movie ends.
47 minutes in. We took our sweet time with that. Say about the same amount of time as the third movie. And the first few Gundam movies was about an hour long, our review. That said, this movie, probably 7 or 8 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10.
I'd give it an 8. I'm giving it a strong 8.
It was pretty good, but it was lacking in some parts, and it was...
Fair point. But I feel that this and the other 5 movies kind of work really well together as a complete piece.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
So... We're not actually going to be covering the next movie just yet. Next, we're going to be returning to another series that we've kind of been sitting on for a good long while. Star Trek. See, I didn't get kicked out of my apartment this time. Ha!
Which one?
4. Star Trek 4. A New Hope. God damn it!
You did that on purpose.
I know.
No, what's the subtitle?
The Undiscovered Country.
Nope, that's 6.
The Search for God.
Nope. The Voyage Home.
Ah.
Yes, Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home.
You can tell I'm a super Star Trek nerd.
I'm just... No, real talk. This was a pretty good movie.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But it's obviously before these characters really develop into
who they are in the original series.
I mean, Dozel's pretty much always been who he is.
Oh, I definitely feel that the next few movies will definitely help to better establish who he is in the original series. Trust me. I love the fact that, despite the fact that if you're looking at this on YouTube, the poster clearly shows Shaw right there front and center as the central character, and he's really not the focus of this one. I mean, he's a significant character, and this first movie is named after him, after all, but it's really kind of about the whole climate in Munzo at this point in the series. Not just Shar's origin.
Yeah.
It's the origin of everything that's been that leads up to the 1 year war.
I think the best way to put it, it is a prologue for everything else that's to come.
Right.
It sets the table for here's what's happening, here's why everything is going the way it is, and then it sort of hints at things that are about to happen in the future.
Yeah, I like the fact that these movies do have some implications for later media that
we have seen,
which you have seen, and it's really kind of like, oh, so that's how it got like that, or such like that.
I like to think that Char, the only reason he went after Cassilia and I mean, spoiler alerts, but I mean, you should have seen the review by now. The only reason he goes after Cassilia in the third movie is because of this one scene where he ties him up, and he's just never been able to get over it. Yeah, your family killed me, but you tied me up. That's it. I'm getting my revenge on you. That would be such delicious pettiness. I would. God, if the creators of Mobile Suit Gundam came right out and said, "No, yeah, that's the reason he killed her," I would be like, well played.
Also, and this doesn't really affect the English dub of these movies, but one thing I definitely love about these movies is the fact that they brought back as many of the original cast members from the older shows to reprise their roles in these movies. Yeah. Particularly Char, who has been voiced by the same voice actor in almost every incarnation ever since the original series.
Except for when he was a kid.
But that makes sense. I mean, you don't usually have a kid version of a character being played by the person who plays them as an adult. That's pretty non-standard, with really Goku being the only exception. Goku and Gohan.
And even then, I don't agree with that their voice should age.
I kind of just like it, just general. But that's a topic for some other podcast when we actually talk about Dragon Ball, maybe.
Yeah, but when we talk about oh God, what's it called?
Evolution?
Yes. We're going to talk about Dragon Ball Evolution.
Oh, we should just do a series of like terrible Hollywood live action adaptations of
Avatar,
animes.
0 out of 10. What the fuck were they doing?
Dragon Ball Evolution, Fist of the North Star. There is a live action Fist of the North Star movie made by Hollywood. Let that sink in.
I don't know how to feel about that. Who's it star? Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Gary Jewell? No, not Gary Jewell. Gary Daniels?
What the fuck, guys?
Anyway, that's enough rambling from us.
Yeah.
This has been Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin 1, Blue-Eyed Casval. For ProtoBalls Talk, I'm ProtoMet.
I'm my recycled balls.
See ya!
Bye.